Hello and welcome to the final day of what has been an amazing India Global Week. I'm Edie Lush, and hello and namaste from London. We have been overwhelmed by your positive response to the last 3 days. We've seen incredible dance, musical performances, discussions about investment, politics, security, trade. Over 30,000 participants from 76 different countries have tuned in. We've had 266 speakers speak over the last few days. Many of you are asking us when our next event will be. To find out, stay tuned to us today and visit indiaincgroup.com for more. And to read it, what we heard from Manoj Ladwa, India Inc. does believe in building great winning partnerships, and you are all terrific partners. If you've missed any of the sessions this week or want your friends to see some of the replays, log back into indiaglobalweek.com and you'll be able to see and share those sessions. Keep tweeting us at IndiaINCORP and do use our hashtag #BeTheRevival. Now, a very warm welcome to this conversation with Piyush Goyal. He's the Minister of Railways and the Minister of Commerce and Industry for India. So it's great to have you back. You're a repeat guest. You've spoken at each India Global Week.
It's always a pleasure. Thank you very much, Eddie, and I'm really looking forward to this conversation with you.
So tell me first about the Indian economy. We're staring into an economic abyss from where I sit in the United Kingdom. The world will be recovering from one of the biggest economic shocks ever, and certainly the largest since the end of the Second World War. So I'd love to hear from your perspective what your current prognosis is and what the outlook is as well.
Well, the clear signs that India is on the path of getting back into action. While, of course, there are a number of studies which seem to suggest that it'll take some time for the world to recover. The current calendar year is kind of been washed out for most parts of the world, and we are looking at 5 or 6% degrowth in the world economy, and somewhat similar numbers for India, particularly given that the first quarter for us, our April, May, June quarter that has just gone by, has been pretty bad considering one of the world's strictest lockdowns. But the good news is that India has always demonstrated the ability to bounce back very, very rapidly. And historically, India has suffered many, many challenges in the past. We've had different problems which we have faced very resolutely, but we have always had the resilience to come back into action pretty quickly. I'll give you a few data points. I'm also the railway minister, and we move most of the freight goods like fertilizer, coal, food grain, milk, petroleum products, and we are at about 92% level of what we were 1 year ago on a week-to-week basis. Electricity consumption has come back to 90% plus. We find on a number of indicators that economic activity seems to have shown very quick ramp up over the last 30 or 40 days ever since unlock started. Our tax collections, the goods and services tax, is also at about a 90% level of the year ago period. So I believe we will be able to recoup very quickly. There is still demand in the market for several products. Our tractor sales are showing great resilience. Agriculture, which supports half the Indian population, is at record levels, which means that consumption is going to be back on stream. To my mind, we will be able to bring back the economy over the next 3 or 4 months to last year's level, and then look at rapid growth in the economy.
So tell me about we've seen in the last few recent months a number of major announcements made. The defense sector is opening to foreign direct investment. Civil aviation is opening up. Has COVID-19 derailed this reforms agenda?
On the contrary, Eddie, COVID-19 has only pushed us faster. In fact, the Honorable Prime Minister announced a package of nearly $300 billion. And that is one part of our overall scheme of things, in which a number of measures for sustainable economic development and sectoral reform in several sensitive sectors like defense, agriculture, space, power have been announced. And I think COVID-19 is a crisis which India hopes to convert into an opportunity. We shall not tire. We shall not be afraid to bite the bullet. We are willing to go that extra mile. And the country as a whole is standing solidly behind Prime Minister Narendra Modi to take the economy on fast forward mode to meet the aspirations of 1.3 billion young and enlightened Indians.
And tell me what further reforms we can expect from now.
Well, we have significant items on the table. We are looking at further reform in the mining sector. We are looking at opening up FDI in certain sectors where there still are some constraints. Foreign investment will be permitted. We are looking at reform in terms of domestic approvals and bureaucratic processes to try and simplify it and make it easier to do business. We'll soon be coming out with a new industrial policy, with a new forest policy, and several other initiatives to promote economic activity in a variety of ways. For example, a simple change we did in the definition of micro, small, and medium enterprises to bring it closer to internationally accepted norms will have far-reaching impact in promoting our very small enterprises to grow. We are looking at banking sector and capital market reform. So the agenda is pretty vast and we are open to new ideas. I'm sure at the India Week also you would have come across several suggestions from different stakeholders. I would urge the organizers of India Global Week to compile the suggestions that you have been able to collect from all across the world and do share it with us to help us in our transformation agenda.
So I love that idea. We will compile the ideas that we've heard over the course of the last 3 days and send them over to you. Of course, in the UK and in Europe, there is a lot of discussion about the green agenda and building back better by building through renewables, that kind of thing. And I know that is already quite a large focus within India's economy, but I wonder if that's of interest to you now and how else you are thinking you might revive the economy.
Well, of course, the green energy, for example, has been Prime Minister Modi's focus ever since he came into office in 2014. You will recall at the COP21 in Paris, and I had the good fortune to be a part of Prime Minister Modi's delegation as the Minister for Renewable Energy. Honorable Prime Minister demonstrated his strong resolve towards fighting climate change, his strong resolve to be a part of the solution and work with other countries around the world to promote clean energy, to promote rapid efforts to bring down pollution levels. And India has set very, very high standards in our INDCs, our intended nationally determined contribution towards the global effort, are bold and extremely challenging. In fact, on a lighter note, Eddie, when Vice President Al Gore came out with his very famous book, Inconvenient Truth, the Honorable Prime Minister, who was then the Chief Minister of Gujarat, had come out with his own version titled Convenient Action. While the inconvenient truth is known and the world now recognizes it largely, Prime Minister Modi's focus is on action. And only yesterday, he has inaugurated an extremely large solar power plant, 750 megawatt. It's truly a transformational renewable energy thrust that Prime Minister Modi has given to India. I remember as a renewable energy minister, when I took charge, India's national mission was to go up to about 20 gigawatt of solar power. And Prime Minister Modi told me this is not going to solve the problems and the demands of India. And he multiplied it fivefold. And we immediately embarked on a 100 gigawatt solar energy program in 2014-15. Ever since, we have been focused on promoting all forms of clean energy. We have been focused on doing a lot of replantation to promote forests coming up. We have been looking at cleaner fuels. So we are looking at biofuels. We are looking at gas, replacing other forms of polluting fossil fuel. We are looking at greening even our coal by converting coal to gas. And finally, as Railway Minister, I'm delighted to share with you that the Honorable Prime Minister has approved a program for 100% electrification of Indian railways. Will be the largest railway in the world to be 100% electrified. It will be the first railway of such large dimension with nearly 120,000 track kilometers across the length and breadth of India, all running on electric power, replacing diesel. And by 2030, we hope to be the world's first 100% green railway with net zero emission. We are planning to set up 20 gigawatt of clean energy to provide energy for our running of our railways.
That is a really ambitious and quite exciting plan. So I am really interested in your rail portfolio. How are you going to pay for that transition to an electric train all over India? How will you pay for that electric railway? Is that another opportunity for foreign investment?
Well, as far as the basic electrification goes, converting the railway from diesel to electricity, the railways is doing that on its own, but all the projects are executed by the private sector. So you have international companies and Indian companies all bidding for the projects and executing the electrification. None of it is done in-house by the railways or by any government entity directly. It's all bid out to private sector. The 20 gigawatt clean energy program is going to be bid out for any company from around the world to come in, invest in public-private partnership, own the projects and supply us the power. And going forward, the Indian Railways is opening up newer and newer opportunities. And my own sense is we'll have at least $500 billion of projects, or about 400 billion pound sterling of projects being bid out by the Indian Railways over the next 12 years or so for public-private partnerships.
And who are the biggest investors in the Indian railways at the moment? I'm embarrassed not to know.
Well, we have a number of companies who are participating in this infrastructure development, but I would like to mention two with whom we've set up joint venture projects for manufacturing of locomotives. One is Alstom, which is a European company. The other was tied up with General Electric, GE, an American company, to make locomotives in Bihar. But then finally, GE sold that unit to another company in the US. Both these projects are doing extremely well. They are role models of public-private partnership. We are now opened up for bidding 150 routes, trains, private trains, which are going to come out for private sector to run the trains on the Indian infrastructure, very similar to a highway. The railways will be the provider of infrastructure, and we'll invite all participants to come in and run world-class trains so that Indian passengers can enjoy very comfortable, very fast, and very efficient services.
I mean, it is one of my dreams, actually, to travel around India by train. And the last time I was in India, in Mumbai, there was a lot of discussion about the bullet train between Mumbai and Gujarat. So I wonder what happens to these iconic projects now. Are they still on track?
Yes, we are all committed to these projects. We are at the stage of finalizing the plans and the costing of these projects. Certainly, COVID-19 has been a little bit of a spanner in the works in terms of the ambitions that we had around the bullet train project. And we are re-looking at all the projects in terms of the post-COVID world that will entail a lot of tightening of the belt, a lot of cost cutting, and improving our efficiencies and aligning ourselves to how travel and transport will work in the after COVID world. And I really think it's going to be a BCAC affair, the before COVID and the after COVID. And 2019 and 20 are going to be defining years, which will be remembered for several decades, if not centuries, going forward.
So let's have a look at international trade now. We've seen a lot of interesting news coming through over the last few weeks. India banning Chinese social media apps, throwing up hurdles to restricting investments from China. Of course, it's not just India. I read this morning that Amazon has banned its employees from using TikTok and asked them to delete the app from their phones. So from your perspective, what's the thinking there?
Well, India very strongly believes in free trade. India very strongly believes in multilateral engagements and a global rule-based trading system. The particular instance of the apps is more a security concern, which has been done by the Home Ministry, and all the companies have been asked to furnish certain details, which is a proper legal process that is going on based on our security concerns. But in terms of trade, in terms of our engagement with the rest of the world, India continues and will always remain committed to fair trade, but on the basis of reciprocity. It cannot be that our goods and our services do not get equal access and equal freedom to operate in the other country. And therefore, I think it's a fair trade that we are looking at. It's reciprocal trade that we are looking at. And India would like to encourage all nations around the world, including EU and the UK and the USA, to look at India as a trusted partner, as a partner which believes very strongly in global rules of trade, where we want to open our doors to global engagement, but would simultaneously expect fair treatment for our businesses to work in other geographies.
The Prime Minister spoke on Thursday to India Global Week, to this conference, about resilient India. So I wonder what those words mean to you.
Well, when he talks of Atmanirbhar Bharat or a strong India, resilient India, he's basically talking about India engaging with the rest of the world on equal terms from a position of strength, from a position of confidence. It is not about India closing its doors. It's not about becoming exclusive or creating barriers to trade. It's about opening India's doors to greater engagement with the rest of the world. But It also means that we want to develop Indian industry. We want to create scale of operations in Indian industry so that they're able to work with the rest of the world on fair terms, provide quality products, provide products at competitive pricing. So we believe that economies of scale, larger scale of operations and production, better quality of production domestically, both for our domestic consumers and for the rest of the world, is the way forward. And we want to be a facilitator. We want to handhold our entrepreneurs and our industry to strengthen their efforts, and our resolve to be a part of the global value chains is getting stronger by the day. But we want to go there from a position of strength, not a position of weakness.
So I'm here in London, and looks like for us that Brexit is still on track. So for those of us who are really interested in a globalized UK, we're interested in who's going to do the trade deal. So I wonder where you are in a trade deal with the UK now.
Well, I had offered one to the UK even before you finally finalized on Brexit. I'd had very good meetings with your ministers, with my counterparts in London. I've had some very good conversations with the new minister, but of course now on VC, given the current situation. But I can assure you that India stands committed to greater engagement with the UK. We are two countries which are bound with a lot of history, a lot of culture, a lot of tradition, and I believe we are natural trading and business partners. There's huge potential to expand trade between UK and India. To my mind, the choice is of the United Kingdom. I'm open to have my officers sit down and talk to the officers in the UK every single day, morning to evening, and give them a 15, 20, 30-day window, not to get out of that room till they have finalized at least an initial early harvest, before we can look at a longer term PTA or a preferential trade agreement. A free trade agreement should be our goal, but we can do a PTA in the immediate future. We can have our officials and the ministers sit down across video conferencing and come to terms at least on the first 25 or 50 items that are of mutual interest to both countries. I have an open mind. I'm coming into negotiation with no preconceived notions, no red lines, with the openness and with the spirit of free trade. I'm offering to the United Kingdom an early harvest preferential trade agreement. If the UK is willing to correspondingly come forward with that openness, I'm willing to start talking Monday morning, 9 a.m.
Okay, well, we'll send that message through. When you say that you think that there's huge expanse to increase the trade, what are the areas that you are particularly looking at? I know that over the past few months, the pharmaceuticals trade has been incredible and has been very strong, and we've received, and it was from both sides, an enormously appreciated bit of the trade.
Well, India believes in Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. It's a Sanskrit word which says the world is one family. And when the COVID-19 hit the world, there were concerns that India, which is very often called the pharmacy of the world and supplies a lot of medicines worldwide, will restrict imports and not supply to the rest of the countries. We did restrict imports. But Eddie, the idea was not to not supply to the world. The idea was to ensure that we supply to the whole world in an orderly fashion. Otherwise, there are many less developed countries, many small island countries, countries in the African continent or Latin America. These small countries would have been deprived of pharmaceutical products, and the rich nations would have been able to corner all the produce. And our restriction was only to ensure that we meet the needs of every country in the world. And you'll be happy to know, during the COVID period, essential medicines were supplied by India to over 150 countries, out of which 50 countries or more got it free of charge as a grant, the less developed countries. And I assure you that is the spirit with which Prime Minister Modi looks at all countries, with which every Indian wishes to work with the rest of the world. Apart from pharmaceuticals, we have textiles, we have handicrafts, we have leather products, we have industrial machinery, we have furniture, we have toys. I can list out 100 things where India can start engaging with UK and giving you very good quality products at competitive prices. Similarly, we are looking to UK to support us with technology-based products, with high quality cameras, with high quality medical devices, with high quality automobiles, maybe spirits. And India is considered one of the largest consumers of Scotch whiskey, which has always been an area of interest for the UK. So there's a lot of potential in our trade. As I mentioned, I'm coming out for negotiations and discussions with an open mind in the spirit of partnership. I think we can support each other and we can expand our trade. It's a competition which country and which geographies take the benefit of this offer first. I hope UK can take the lead in that.
Well, me too. So that's interesting. So you'd be open to 9 a.m. on Monday morning with the UK. What about the European Union? Where are you on a trade deal with the EU?
We are also correspondingly talking to them. We had a stalemate in our discussions over several years now, but I'm happy to share with you that we have, after the new European Commission came in, I'm in dialogue with the Trade Commissioner, and I'm similarly open with the EU to look at, while we discuss a longer term free trade agreement, to look at an early harvest PTA. I am keen that we should progress our talks. We are willing to discuss with an open mind on a variety of subjects. And well, it's up to the EU and it's up to UK. Whoever picks up the gauntlet first.
Whoever answers that video conference first, this video conference call first may well get the deal. So Piyush Goyal, thank you so much for joining us here on India Global Week. Really been a delightful conversation to have with you. I've learned an enormous amount, both about railways, about free trade, and we're looking forward to seeing you back here next year as our repeat guest.
Thank you, Eddie. It was lovely talking to you. I must place on record my thanks to India In, to Manoj Larva and your entire team for really organizing this event, even in these trying times, using technology and doing it, and continuing this dialogue without break, which really is the essence of greater engagement and greater partnership between the people of UK and India and between businesses. My best wishes to you, your family, and all of my friends and all of the people of the United Kingdom. Please stay safe, stay healthy. My prayers are with you and your families. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And to all of our audience, we'll be back in just a few moments with our next session, the Global Diaspora Response to COVID. So stay with us.